Mom, we have to go back, now. She's going to hurt the baby. What are you talking about, sweetie? The new nanny. Mom, look at this. When my daughter showed me the audio from the nanny, I panicked. I raced home, and what we saw when we arrived was unthinkable. Welcome to Velvet Vendetta. My name is Lauren Miller, and until that day, I believed I was building a solid life with my family. I work from home as a graphic designer while taking care of my 2 children. Leo, who's still an infant, and Chloe, my bright, observant, sometimes too observant, 6-year-old daughter. My husband, Mark, is a real estate agent and usually leaves early, so the mornings are almost always on me. That day, a new nanny, Rebecca, was arriving for the first time. Mark was the one who recommended her. He said she was the sister of a colleague from work, highly qualified, experienced, and with a first aid certification. When I saw her resume and the letters of recommendation, I felt relieved. I needed help. I had more work than I could handle alone. At 8 a.m. sharp, the doorbell rang. She was punctual, young, with a kind smile, her brown hair pulled back in a tidy bun. She dressed simply, but was well put together. "Good morning, Mrs. Miller," she said in a soft voice. "Please, call me Lauren. Come on in." As I showed her around the house, Chloe stood in the hallway, watching her from a distance, which caught my attention. My daughter has always been sociable. She loves to talk. But that day, she seemed distrustful, even scared. "This is Chloe," I said, smiling. "She's a little shy today." Rebecca knelt to her level and said, "I love your dress, princess." "Thanks," Chloe replied quietly, without a smile. Still, I continued showing her everything. I showed her the diapers, the baby's medications, how to prepare his bottle, his likes and dislikes. Rebecca listened attentively, taking notes on her phone. Professional, precise, reassuring. "All right, I'm going to take Chloe to school and I'll be back in about 40 minutes. I kissed Leo, who was sleeping in his crib, grabbed my purse and called for Chloe. "Let's go, sweetie." She hesitated for a moment, looking at Rebecca. "I'm coming." In the car, she was quiet, very quiet, more than usual. She fiddled with her tablet, looked out the window, then back at the tablet. I was already thinking about her work deadline when she said, "Mom, we have to go back, now." "What? Why?" I responded, surprised, looking at her in the rearview mirror. "Rebecca wants to hurt Leo." I froze for a few seconds. "Chloe, what are you talking about?" She started to cry, and then she told me everything. "I know you liked her, I could tell, and I was scared you would think I was being mean or jealous, but there's something about her that gave me a bad feeling. So I hid Grandma's old phone in the living room. I left it recording." She held up her tablet. "I'm listening to what's happening there right now." My blood ran cold. She played the audio. It was a little distant but clear. "Today it all ends. Nothing will stand in the way of our perfect family anymore." My whole body went rigid. We were at a red light, but I wasn't even blinking. She was looking at Leo when she said it. "I'm sure." "Are you sure, Chloe?" "I'm listening to it, Mom. She's talking to herself. Like she's crazy." I looked at the traffic light. My hands were sweating on the steering wheel. My logic told me this was an overreaction, but my instinct was screaming louder. "Hold on tight." I yanked the wheel and made a sharp U-turn. "Are we going to make it in time?" Chloe asked, her voice breaking. "We're going to make it," I said, slamming on the accelerator. But the truth was, I wasn't sure myself. The car sped through the streets as if every second was a choice between life and death. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt like it was echoing inside the car. Chloe was in the back seat, hugging her backpack as if it could protect her. "Chloe," my voice came out strained, "why didn't you trust her?" She hesitated before answering, because she looked at me like I didn't exist, like only Leo mattered, and when you weren't there, she talked to him in a weird way, like he was hers. I swallowed hard. Each word from my daughter was like a dagger twisting slowly. "And there's something else," she said quietly. "What is it?" She took a deep breath, her eyes full of tears. A few weeks ago, I saw Dad kissing her. I almost lost control of the car. What do you mean he kissed her? I don't know if it was a real kiss or a game, but it was on the mouth, Mom. And then they laughed. It was a Saturday when you went out shopping. He said a friend was stopping by the house, but it was her. The pieces started clicking into place. The perfect nanny, recommended directly by him. Chloe's distrust, the recording, the threatening phrase, and now this.
Why didn't you tell
betrayal.
me sooner? My stomach
Because he said that if I told you, he would leave forever. He said if I was a bad girl, he wouldn't be my daddy anymore. My God. She tried to hold it in, but she couldn't. She broke down sobbing. I reached my arm back and touched her little leg. You did nothing wrong, my love. Nothing. Do you hear me? She nodded, sniffling. The light ahead turned red. I was about to run it, but I managed to brake. I glanced over and saw a car next to me with a mom and her young son in the back seat. So normal, so far from my reality in that instant. Mom, Chloe said in a tiny voice, what if she already did something to him? She hasn't, not yet. We're going to get there in time. I said it more for myself than for her. Finally, our street appeared at the end of the avenue. I gripped the steering wheel tightly. When we go in, stay behind me. Okay. I parked haphazardly, with one wheel on the curb. I jumped out, grabbed Chloe's hand, and we flew to the door. My hands were trembling. I dropped the key. The first time. I picked it up, took a deep breath, put it in the lock, and opened the door. Silence. A cold, dense, unacceptable silence in a house with a 3-month-old baby. I entered carefully. Our footsteps echoed in the hallway. Chloe squeezed my hand with all her might. Leo? I called out, my voice shaking. Nothing. We approached the living room. The door was slightly ajar. I pushed it open gently, and there, standing in front of the crib, was Rebecca. In her hand, a small, transparent bottle. When I opened the living room door, I felt the world stop. Rebecca was standing with her back to us, facing the crib. In her right hand was a small, clear bottle, like one for children's medicine. She was saying something to Leo, whispering, but it wasn't tender, it was possessive. We couldn't make out the words, only the tone. I walked in silently. Chloe was right behind me, clutching my shirt. Rebecca. My voice came out shaky but firm. She turned around. First surprise, then that rehearsed smile, the same one she had on the first day. Mrs. Miller, you're back early. What are you doing? The baby had a little cough. I was just going to give him a few drops of syrup to help him sleep better. Leo doesn't have a cough, and you know it. Her smile wavered. Maybe it started after you left. I took a step forward. Put that bottle down, now. She didn't move. Behind that serene face, there was tension. At that moment, the front door burst open. I spun around. Mark rushed in, his eyes searching for Chloe, for Leo, for me. Lauren, he said, almost in a whisper. What are you doing here? I shot back. Shouldn't you be at work? He looked at Rebecca, then at me. His expression was that of someone who knew, but didn't want to admit it. I was worried, that's all. That's all. I moved closer. You brought this woman into our house, you put her in our home, and now Leo is drugged. He'll be fine, Rebecca said suddenly. Her tone had changed. It was sharp, tense. I know what I'm doing. What is it that you want? I screamed. She hesitated for a second and then smiled, an icy smile. I just wanted a place. What? A place for me, a life, a real family, a house that wasn't borrowed, a man who would choose me, a baby who would call me Mom. My heart hammered in my chest. Are you insane? I murmured. No, I'm just sick of being thrown away. She looked at Mark. You promised me it would be different. Rebecca, please, he said, his voice laced with fear. You promised you would end this, that we would be together. But you're weak. You always were. I didn't know you would go this far, he finally burst out. I only said those things because I was confused. I never imagined you would actually— Oh, shut up, she spat with contempt. Mark stood there, frozen, silent. You two think you're the perfect family, she said, looking at me now. But he always comes to me. He always says he wants to leave, that you control everything, that he only stays because of the baby. She took a step toward me. I stepped back, shielding Chloe with my body and holding Leo tightly in my arms. You weren't going to do anything, were you? I whispered. You just wanted to help. I wasn't going to let him suffer. She held up the bottle. It would have been quick, painless. Babies don't remember anything. I grabbed my phone. I'm calling the police. Go ahead, she said dismissively. You have no proof. I'm just a dedicated nanny and you're a hysterical mother. Before I could dial, the phone rang in my hand. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? A frantic voice on the other end. Mrs. Miller, this is Sarah, your husband's co-worker. Please, listen to me. Call the police. Now. What? I know this sounds crazy, but I'm very fond of you and your family. And Mark's behavior lately has had me really worried. And today he ran out of the office. I had a bad feeling. How did you know all this? I did some digging. Her name is fake. Her certification is fake. She's scammed other families. There were 2 babies hospitalized, and she disappeared before anyone could accuse her. She paused before finishing. You might think I'm overreacting, but when it comes to children, you can never be too careful. Something told me it was now or never. I looked up. Rebecca was still there, but the smile was gone. The call ended. I felt like my heart was going to explode. Leo was in my arms, breathing, but weakly. His little eyes were open but vacant, as if he couldn't see me. I've already called the police, I said to Rebecca, looking her straight in the eye. They're on their way. She held my gaze without blinking. You're lying. Try to run, I replied. Try it. See how that goes for you. Mark stood in the middle of the room, hands in his pockets, staring at the floor as if he wanted to disappear into it. You knew, I said to him. You knew, and you did nothing. He looked up. His eyes were empty. It made me sick. I didn't think she'd go this far. And what did you think would happen, Mark? She came in here with a plan. And what did you do? Did you applaud? Did you play dumb? I thought she just wanted to scare you, to make you feel insecure, to create a conflict between us. You handed her our son, I screamed. Chloe flinched behind me. The sight of her broke my chest. Everything hurt. Rebecca let out a low chuckle. He never had the guts for anything, Lauren. Not to face you, not to defend me. He thought he could have both worlds forever. Mark glared at her furiously. You deceived me. You're sick. Shut up, she hissed, her voice full of venom. You wanted me to do the dirty work. You just didn't have the balls to say it directly. It would be easier if the baby didn't exist. Remember that? Silence. The air grew thick, unbreathable. I clutched Leo tighter against my chest. He was limp, barely breathing. No, I couldn't lose him. I remembered the smell of his hair, the way he held onto my shirt when he slept, his little hands searching for my face. How could I imagine him without a soul? A month, I said. A month of supporting this woman, betraying me, lying. And all of it in front of your daughter, with your son in her arms. I pulled Chloe into a fierce hug. Mark mumbled, but he couldn't say more. You lost me, Mark. Today, right here. Forever. Rebecca took a few steps back. This is all a waste of time. The police will believe me. I'm a nanny. I have experience. If you say I wanted to hurt the baby, they'll think you're crazy, jealous over your husband. They already know who you are, what you did to the other families. She froze. What? Sarah told me everything. Your fake name, your fake certifications, the other babies, the hospitals. You always ran before they could press charges, but you're not running anymore. Rebecca turned to Mark. Did you tell them? He shook his head, trembling. No, I swear, I didn't even know all that. She advanced on him. You goddamn coward. And in that moment, Leo moved. Just barely, but he moved. A soft whimper escaped his lips. My eyes clouded with tears. "Leo," I whispered. "My love, hold on, it's almost over. Mommy's here, Mommy's with you." Rebecca headed for the door. "Where do you think you're going?" I yelled. She didn't answer, but before she touched the doorknob, sirens. The sound cut through the air like a razor. Rebecca stopped. The patrol car's lights painted the walls. Blue, red, blue, red. Outside, we heard car doors slam. Voices, boots on the pavement. "Police!" someone shouted. Mark raised his hands, pale, trembling, on the verge of breaking. Rebecca slowly lowered her arm. She turned. For the first time, I saw fear in her eyes. "This was supposed to work," she muttered. "It was going to be perfect." Bang, bang, bang. 3 sharp knocks on the door. It burst open. 2 armed officers entered. One pointed his weapon directly at Rebecca. "Hands up!" She didn't resist. She didn't scream. She didn't run. She simply broke. She just stood there, as if her castle of lies had collapsed on top of her. As they cuffed her, she tried to say something. Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. For the first time, she was speechless. The house no longer felt like ours. Police officers moved back and forth, talking on their radios, collecting evidence. One picked up the small bottle Rebecca had used. Another recorded every corner of the living room with a camera. The rug, the crib, the windows. It felt like a crime scene. And it was. Leo was in the arms of the paramedics, unconscious but breathing. One checked his vital signs, another administered something to his tiny arm. Chloe wouldn't let go of my hand, squeezing so tight I felt like she was trying to merge with me. One of the officers called to me. "Mrs." I nodded. "We'll need your formal statement down at the precinct, and the details on the nanny, how she was hired, who recommended her." "It was him," I said, pointing at Mark. The officer turned to him. Mark was still silent, sitting on the couch with a lost look in his eyes. He didn't look sorry, just empty. "He'll have to come with you," the officer said. "He's being detained for now." I didn't say anything. I walked towards the ambulance. One of the paramedics gently stopped me. "Ma'am, can you ride with us? Your son is responding well, but he needs continuous observation." I nodded. Chloe looked at me anxiously. "What about me?" "You're coming with me, my love. No one is ever separating us." She hung her head, relieved but still tense. Inside the ambulance, I sat between them, one arm around Chloe, the other holding Leo's warm little hand. I looked at him. His breathing was soft, steady. His face wasn't so pale anymore. I closed my eyes for a second, and it all came rushing back. The first ultrasound, the news he was a boy, the little kicks, his first cry, the smell of his neck after a bath. I had almost lost all of that. Leo was my life. And that day, I felt like someone had tried to rip it out of me. Chloe rested her head on my shoulder. Her breathing was ragged, crying without making a sound, and I just sat there like a statue, holding my 2 pieces of my soul. At the hospital, another storm began. Doctors, lights, swinging doors, machines. They took Leo away on a gurney. Chloe clung to me desperately. They left us in a small waiting room with a sofa and a child's bed. We sat in silence until Chloe said something very quietly. "Mom, I recorded everything." "What do you mean?" "I left my old phone hidden behind the vase in the living room. I left it recording from the moment we left." "Why did you do that?" "Because I knew no one would believe me, not even you. That lady was weird, and Dad was too. I saw him whispering with her. I saw him lying." I sat on the floor in front of her. "You saved your brother." She said nothing. "You saved me too." She started to cry again, silently. Then there was a knock on the door. It was an officer. "Mrs. Miller." I stood up. "Any news?" "Yes, about Mr. Miller. The DA wants to speak with you as soon as possible." "What happened?" The officer hesitated. He just said something that changes everything. The room at the DA's office was cold. Pale walls, plastic chairs, the smell of stale coffee. Chloe was asleep on my lap, her face pressed against me, her eyes swollen from crying. I was called to give my statement twice. I repeated the story over and over until my voice was gone. But I would do it 1,000 more times if it meant justice would be served. Then, Sarah arrived. She carried a folder and a flash drive. Her face was serious, determined. "I brought everything," she said. "I was up all night going through files, comparing old complaints. It's her, the same woman. She always changed her name, but the face, the methods, they're the same." She handed everything to the prosecutor. The agents began examining every page. There were medical reports, hospital admission records, repeating patterns. Intoxicated babies, wealthy families, nannies with different names, but the same face. "The flash drive?" I asked. "Security footage from a gated community where she worked. You can see her walking out carrying a baby, saying she was going to the pharmacy." The mother never knew. She only got suspicious when the child started having seizures days later. My blood ran cold again. "So she's done it before, many times." Sarah nodded, a mix of anger and pain on her face. "But she's not getting away this time. We have your testimony and we have Chloe's video." I looked at my sleeping daughter, her arms wrapped around me. She hadn't just saved her brother, she had saved countless others who could have fallen into that woman's hands. An officer approached. "Mrs. Miller, you can go home, but please stay available. We're analyzing the full contents of your daughter's phone." "And Mark?" The officer looked down at his papers. At first, he claimed he was manipulated, that he knew nothing. But he contradicted himself. In the end, he admitted he was aware of her intention to get the baby out of the way. "Get him out of the way," I repeated, incredulous. His exact words. "He'll be prosecuted. Yes, for complicity and gross negligence. If the child hadn't received medical attention in time." I didn't need him to finish the sentence. I went back to the hospital that night. Leo was awake, his eyes bright, though a little tired. A doctor came in with a warm smile. "He's out of danger. We'll keep him for observation for a few more hours, but he's stable. He's a tough little guy." I broke down. I cried silently, sitting by the crib with my head on the mattress. Chloe came over and gently stroked that I wouldn't let anything happen to you. Leo looked at her and smiled. That tiny gesture was more powerful than any medical diagnosis. Days later, I was summoned for the preliminary hearing. Rebecca would be there. So would Mark. I spent the night before wide awake, replaying every moment, every suspicious glance, every time I'd wanted to deny my gut feeling. We arrived at the courthouse at 9 a.m. sharp. Chloe held my hand. She wore a light blue dress and a white bow in her hair. She looked older, as if the whole nightmare had aged her years in a matter of days. We sat outside the courtroom. The atmosphere was heavy, silent. Every time a door opened, my stomach lurched. Then Chloe looked at me. "Mom, they're going to pay." I knelt down to her level. "They are going to pay. No matter how long it takes, I promise you." The doors opened, and there they were. Rebecca, in handcuffs, her face gaunt but her gaze defiant. Mark, in a suit, head down, eyes lost on the floor. They didn't know it yet, but that would be the last time they could hide from the truth. The hearing lasted 3 hours. It felt like an eternity. The judge listened to every testimony intently. When Chloe's video was played, the courtroom went still. Rebecca's voice was crystal clear. "We just have to wait for him to fall asleep. It will be quick and she'll never know." The silence was absolute, broken only by the heavy breathing of those present. Then came the documents Sarah had brought. Medical files, hospital records, old, ignored case, all following the same pattern. Small victims, similar symptoms, nannies with different names, but always the same face. Then it was her turn to speak. She took the stand with a disturbing calm, but it only took one direct question from the prosecutor to make her crack. "Do you understand the gravity of what you did?" She sighed, her eyes glassy. I did it for love. Because she looked at Mark. He promised me everything would be different. That he just needed to remove the obstacles from the path. And the baby was the biggest one of all. The room gasped. The judge called for order. I could only look at Mark, and for the first time, I saw the confirmation in his eyes. He knew. He let her do it. Rebecca continued. I would have done anything for him. I always did. And he knew it. He always knew. He used me. He let me get my hands dirty because he knew how much I loved him. Every word he said, every lie. I held on to it. And Leo, the judge asked, what did he mean to you? She looked down. Nothing. He was just a baby. A chill ran through the entire courtroom. Nothing more needed to be said. Rebecca Arismendi, sentenced to 22 years in prison with no possibility of parole for the first 15. Additionally, mandatory psychiatric treatment during her incarceration. She didn't cry. She just lowered her head, for the first time without defiance. Mark Miller, sentenced to 11 years for complicity and gross negligence, 7 of which will be served in a closed-regime facility without benefits. This court deems his conduct to be of the highest level of cowardice and parental neglect. Chloe hugged me so tightly, I felt my own heart start to beat strongly again. We did it, Mom. We won, honey, and no one will ever hurt us again. Months passed. The house became quieter, but not emptier. On the contrary, it was filled with laughter, the smell of baked bread, scattered toys, and open windows. I changed the locks, installed cameras, quit my job. But more than anything, I transformed from within. Chloe started therapy. She learned to name her emotions, to understand that nothing that happened was her fault. Leo grew up healthy, happy, and bright, like a little miracle of flesh and blood. And me? I learned to love the woman I saw in the mirror again. One day at the park, as we were pushing Leo's stroller, Chloe asked me, Mom, are we happy now? We are, my love, because now we're free. She smiled, and so did I. But before I close this story, I need to say something. For me, and for you, who are listening. There are men who don't get their hands dirty, but allow others to do it for them. Men who hide behind silence, who say, I didn't know, while looking the other way. And there are women who confuse obsession with love, who believe they can build a home on the pain of others, who dream of a stolen family, without understanding that nothing born from cruelty can ever flourish in peace. And in the middle of that chaos are the most defenseless. A baby has no way to defend himself, a child has no voice, and if my daughter hadn't been who she is, if she hadn't acted as she did, perhaps my son wouldn't be with us today. So today, I thank myself for raising a strong, empathetic, and brave little girl. For having planted, without even realizing it, the kind of love. If you had been in my place, would you have done anything differently? If you made it to the end of this story, leave the phrase silent courage in the comments, because that's what saved my family. And maybe it can save others too. Thank you for watching Velvet Vendetta. Don't forget to subscribe.